Hey, Mudflaps back with another video. Today I'm going to go over the military wing in Naxxramas. This guide will try to help sort loot in a manner that's reasonable, efficient, rewarding, and keeps people motivated. Raids are always trying to improve, and good loot management is a method for success. Now remember that it's a team game, and we should all be excited for our teammates gearing up, strengthening the raid as we enjoy our time together in Wrath Classic. Now, that being said, let's jump into it. The first item we have are the Bindings of the Expansive Mind. These are a good hit item for mages, and also Ellie Shaman. Now, I know the other casters could also sometimes use the hit, but they have a lot of really good like spirit options, and they get a little more from that than mages generally. But they obviously Ellie doesn't at all. Ellie normally you would say, hey, they have mail options, and the clothies only have cloth, but there are so many cloth bracers that are amazing for the warlocks and shadow priests and everything that I think it would be fair to consider Ellie highly on these with mage if either needed hit again, but both are all of these people would replace these bracers eventually, so nothing to get crazy up over about. The Boots of Forlorn Wishes. Now I talked about this in the Malygos video. The Arcanic Tramplers are the best item for almost all the casters, but when you're talking about Demonic Pact, this is better for the raid on a demo lock than the Arcanic Tramplers are. So Arcanic Tramplers are best for their personal DPS, but the raid as a whole loses if they don't go for these instead. And so many other people are going to gain more from those as well. So I would consider giving these to your, if you have more than one demo, then that throws things off, but your support demo should take these, and that's going to give you a huge boost. Because these are the best for Demonic Pact. Spalders of Egotism, you have a BOE. They're not really desired by anyone. They're going to have tier by now, right? So you can sell these if somebody wants them, no headache. And then again, Chest Piece of Suspicion. This can be a holdover for Feral or Rogue on their way to the Malygos chest, so nothing crazy here. Esteemed Bindings. Only really your Resto Druid want these, but they have a badge item that's basically the same, so it's up in the air as to if they'll need them. No one else is really going to care about them. Shoulder Pads of Secret Arts. Again, a shoulder item. This can be a hit option for hunters if they need it, but it's a holdover until they get other stuff. Bands of Mutual Respect. These are awesome. Ellie and Resto Shaman Bis. So if you have one that's doing both based on the fights or swapping around, you've satisfied 2 specs with 1 item. Really awesome. Plus, Holy Pally could use it, but you're never going to give it to a paladin over a shaman. Girdle of Recuperation. This is Enhance. Nothing to say past that. Give this to Enhance first. Bracers of the Unholy Knight. So, as I said in other videos, you should have conversations with your tanks. Before you come into the raid, you'll have a conversation about their different sets, their threat sets, their avoidance sets, everything. You know what they need to fill in what gaps where, and there's only going to be a couple per raid, so it's not going to be a huge thing. There's only be a couple tanks, so you guys just, the more talking you do before the raid, the less time you spend during raid trying to figure out where it goes. And just kind of a side tangent about that. As many of you have seen, Naxx drops like 65 items. So even though Naxx itself, it doesn't take that long to clear. It takes long to pass out 65 items. That's why doing any bit of work on it in advance to know where things could go is going to help expedite the night and not make it feel like forever. It's kind of a weird thing to say, oh gosh, there's so much loot, but I mean, there's so much loot, which is great. It's just the more planning you do, the less time it's going to take. Now, that being said, you can't have everything planned out because RNG. RNG is going to hit you. You're going to have to adapt. You can't just say, here are the prios. They can wait forever. The item might never drop for them. So you have to adapt. There's going to be some things you can't plan for, but the more planning you do, the less time you spend. You don't need to take an hour to decide where loot is going to go. And then, that can really make the night boring. Gauntlets of Guiding Touch. So these Holy Pally's only ones can use it, but they're going to use it here. So probably a shard. Girdle of Vesuvius. Okay, so this I would give to my Frosty K and then my warriors. And then if the other plate wearers want it, they have other options that they like. But that's what I would do with this piece. And then leg plates of double strikes I would give to warrior. Now, warriors, I've said this in other videos, they have 3 different setups that they can go off. They can go for their off piece. They can go for the adroit gloves. They can go for the helm from Star 3 Drakes, or they can go for the pants off Star 3 Drakes. Now, in our guild, the warriors are going to go for the pants because that is by far the least contested item. The other things have huge amounts of people wanting them. I think that's going to be common in a lot of guilds, so I would suggest warriors go for leggings of the honored, and this is a great holdover till those, and that's how I would divvy up this. The feet only Holy Paladins can use. They're not especially good. There are a lot of better options. Now for necks and rings, I go over this in the spider video, so check that out. Shooting Star. This is obviously Boomkin. Totem of Dueling. This is Enhance. Let's move on to Gothic. For cloaks, spider video. Gothic's Cowl. I would give this to Shadow Priest because we are prioing in our guild Disc Priest on the other thing that Shadow Priest want first, and then as soon as they get that, which there will only ever be 1 Disc Priest in your raid, you would never bring 2 Disc Priests. So as soon as the Disc Priest gets that, boom, Shadow Priest is golden, and if that's not dropping, they can have this until that does drop, and I think that's the best way to go with that. The Bindings of Yearning, these are BOE, you can sell them. That's probably a good call. There are lots of better options for Disc Priest. So unless they're very unlucky, then you give it to Disc Priest if they're getting unlucky. Hood of the Exodus. It's a good holdover for Rogue, and it can be for Pharaoh, but yeah, it's just a holdover piece. Shackled Cinch, a holdover piece for Resto Druid until they get the Malygos belt. It's good. That's all there is to say about that. Leggings of Fleeting Moments, holdover piece for Pharaoh. Helm of Unleashed Energy. So this would be a holdover piece for your Resto Shaman and your Holy Paladin. They both want other things. I would prio them pretty equally on this because they're not going to be that bothered about getting it. Leggings of Failed Escape. Hunter Biss. It goes to Hunter. Tank item. You'll have had that conversation. The other tank item. Abetment Bracers. These are considered one of the best items for Pally Bracers. There's not too much to argue about this, but there are the Grobulous ones, which are also good. It just depends if you want crit or more spell power and haste. That being said, only Paladins can use it, so it's not going to be that much drama. Bracers of Unrelenting Attack. So I would give this to Warriors and Frosty K's before Unholy, and then Rhett has some leather ones that are pretty uncontested that they can get really quickly. And the other option is Fairlina. So these are great for Unholy, unless they don't need the expertise, and then maybe they're arguing for the other ones. But I would probably, if I'm trying to divvy up loot here, I'd give these to my Unholy, and then these to my Warriors and Frosty K's. For trinkets, we go over that in Spider video. Idol, Druid, Raw Pally, Life and Death. Now you have basically the second best sword of the phase. There are lots of ways you can do this. You can do a reverse order thing for, hey, who is last on Turning Tide? Well, maybe we get them Life and Death first, so they're not waiting around, because who knows how many Turning Tides you're going to get, right? And you can just give it to the player that's deserving, or who's getting unlucky. There's lots of things to consider. One of the big things to consider with these weapons is you might not get a whole bunch. You might be swarmed with them, but for anyone who gets down on themselves, man, this phase there's no weapons, I'm not Prio high, this stinks. Just consider that in any good loot council, they're going to consider the fact that there are more phases, right? So maybe you didn't get this or Turning Tide quickly. Well, then maybe you're really high Prio in Ulduar, right? So you can't ever look at loot purely in a phase vacuum, right? You have to see that there are multiple phases, and there are plenty of times in the future to fix any RNG luck you had, right? Touch of Horror. So if Fading Glow would put you over Haste Cap as a Disc Priest, then here you go. And basically only Disc Priest cares about it. It's just you have options. So, 4 Horsemen. Let's get into it. Gloves of Peaceful Death, Resto Druid, and then who else? Just Resto Druid. Helm of the Grave. Yeah, it's okay. Again, hunters have lots of options that they'd rather have. They'd rather have either the Tyr Helm or the Malygos Helm, right? So it's a holdover. It's nothing crazy. Leggings of Voracious Shadows. These are really strong. It's only Ellie, right? There's nothing more to consider about it other than I know they'll want Wanton off of Malygos, but they're probably not super high prio. And if these drop, they're going to be happy because they're very strong. The only thing that changes up is like if they eventually get Wanton, now they got to figure out a hit situation because you're gaining so much hit. Zeliax Gauntlets are BOE, you can sell them, or Unholy Bis, so something to consider there. And luckily, only Unholy really wants this, so not a lot of drama with that. Urn of Lost Memories, Disc Priest offhand, it can be fine for others, not Resto Druid, but if others want it, sure, but I would give it to Disc Priest before anybody else. Those shield-wearing fellas. Broken Promise. So, as we talked about before, tanks have threat sets, mid sets, whatever. This can be, even though it has less white damage on it than Last Lap, this can be like a threat option for your tanks. So, just know which one needs it for their threat set. Armageddon. Now, before some of the new findings coming into Wrath Classic were available, this was considered to be pretty good because, hey, two-hand was going to be the way for Unholy, but now Morb has taken over, and this is basically like a sidelined item. If somebody wants it, sure, go for it. Even Blood TA can do it, but even they are going dual wield now. Damnation. So this is basically like second bis staff for most casters, except Boomkin. I would give this to Boomkin before I give it to any other casters if they're going for a staff. Final Voyage. It's a holdover until Envoy for hunters, or unless they have some. There are other. There are things that the non-hunters can go for. that are even better than this too. So if a hunter needs it, obviously them first. But if none of them need it, and somehow the warriors and rogues don't have something decent for a ranged weapon, then they can go for this until they also want Envoy after all the hunters get it. And then lastly, let's talk about tier. So one little caveat that I talk about in other things is tier comes quickly. I say that a lot in the videos. Tier comes super quickly. I'm sure many of you have lots of tier already, if not already have 4-piece. The only piece you can't get from badges is at home. And then the chest, this piece, was everyone's going to have bought the lesser version, the eye level 200 version. So, because virtually everybody, 98% of people, are going to have that if they use their tier for this slot, the only real conversation you're having is who gets 13 eye levels, right? You're not finishing anyone's 4 set with this. So it's not like the other pieces where you're like, hey, we really have to think about this. This is a piece where you can say, hey, let's combat RNG. Who's been really unlucky? Let's give them this, because there's no efficiency argument to really consider it that's big impact, right? You're not getting a 4-piece to a demo lock. You're not getting a 4-piece to a tank or something. You're not getting anything crazy for anybody. All you're doing is getting 13 out. Now you could, if you're really, really min-maxing, you could say, yes, but my tank needs the eye level. Yeah, but my demo lock, even though it's just a slight upgrade, that's still a bigger upgrade for the raid. True, but it's very minimal. So you can consider that those are valid ways to do it, or you can use this piece as a way to pass out, to share the love where RNG has been unkind to people who are trying really hard and just, you've got them prioed for good things, but they're not dropping. Well, tier's going to drop all the time. Give them something in the meantime until that thing drops. And that, I think, is one of the best ways to divvy this up. So, that being said, for 10-man, there's really not that much to talk about. You have tier again, but everyone's going to have this tier because you could buy it. And then nothing really good. There's a BOE right here, so you can sell it. It'll be probably worth more than a shard. But you're doing 10-man to chill with the homies, you're having fun, and you're getting badges, right? So maybe achievement runs, all that fun stuff. But for loot, there's not much to talk about in this wing for 10-man. Now, that was military wing, so I hope this was helpful. And keep an eye out for future videos, and like and subscribe. It helps me out. And until that, I'll see you in the next one.